Hello, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us. This is our monthly webinar series focused on individual and collective well-being with Kaiser Permanente and Alliance for a Healthier Generation. We will be recording today's session and broadcasting live on Facebook. The session will be posted on the CDE website for later viewing at your disposal. Please use the Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom tray to ask any questions that you might have, and feel free to utilize the chat function to interact as we go through today's material. We will have time at the end to respond to as many questions as you bring up in the Q&A feature as we can. As we continue this monthly webinar series, we know that you all do and carry so much. We acknowledge that schools function best when students and educators are happy and healthy. And with that in mind, we hope this series will provide you with strategies to implement throughout your day to help reduce stress and foster well-being. Also, we hope that this is a space where you can reflect and make connections with others. And with that, I would like to pass it to our wonderful presenter, Yasmin.
Thank you so much, Rico, and welcome everyone to the new year, to January. I cannot believe that we're actually here, and to our new sessions of individual and collective well-being among school staff, educators, and administrators. And we're going to kick off the winter/spring series focusing on strengths. We're going to focus on individual strengths as well as our team strengths to help us move out of burnout and develop healthier and more well teams. Our series has focused on relationships, right? If you've been here before or if you haven't, welcome. But we've really been talking about relationships and specifically transformative relationships. And we're going to continue that journey. So everything we talk about will require a level of care and a level of commitment to nurturing relationships and recognizing that they're dynamic and important. So during today's session, there are going to be multiple ways you can engage. First, we're primarily going to be using Menti.com. And I love Menti because one, it's visually very appealing. I'm a huge visual person. And two, it's anonymous. If you feel more comfortable, if you're like Menti.com is not for me today, that's totally okay. I see folks in the chat box already. You can engage in the chat box. I'm going to be looking at it. And I highly encourage side conversations too, because I'm a huge proponent of having conversations with folks in the field and learning from each other and generating ideas. So we are each other's best resource. So if you find a side chat that you want to engage in, you go ahead and do that. During today's session, you're going to need something to write with and write on. We're going to have time to reflect and to kind of map out some activities. So you're going to need something to write with. And you can also take notes with the Word doc that's going to be shared in the chat that also includes all of the resources that we're going to share today. And I also want to acknowledge the fact that you're coming from probably a really long day, right? So you've been doing so many things. And if you want to be a little bit more passive, if you want to just listen or maybe take this as a walking webinar, you can totally do that, right? Just take what you need. And during today's session, if you hear something that you don't really agree with or like it doesn't really serve you, feel free to leave it here. Or if you want to, you can put it in your back pocket as well. So who am I? My name is Yasmin Rodriguez Corzo, and I am an Associate Director on the Whole Child Health National Advisor Team at the Alliance for a Healthier Generation. And our team creates resources and professional learnings like today and engages in partnerships in areas of whole child health. And if you've been with us before, you've seen that I usually co-facilitate with some folks, but today you got me to yourselves. And our work is funded and supported in partnership with Kaiser Permanente. We work with Kaiser to provide a variety of resources and supports to schools and districts all across the country at all no cost, right? So everything we do is no cost. And you can learn more about the variety of ways Kaiser Permanente supports schools with their Thriving Schools initiative with the link in the chat box. Alrighty, so what are we going to do today? We're going to do quite a bit today. We're going to spend our time continuing to build awareness and awareness of relationships. And we're going to talk about something that we've all heard about, burnout, right? We're going to define burnout, and then we're going to engage in an activity where we're going to actually name expectations and identify where maybe we can start letting some things go. What gives us energy and what may perhaps depletes our energy. Then we're going to move into defining the 5 elements of effective teams. And this is going to be important because we're going to use this framework for the upcoming sessions all the way until April. And based on the elements, we'll spend time identifying not only our individual strengths, but also the strengths of our teams. Because the one thing we know about burnout is that it's not just an individual thing, right? And throughout, I'm going to encourage you to take action. So I'll identify how you can use what we're practicing today with your colleagues, the people you lead, and I'm hoping that you'll make some through lines and connections with how you can use these strategies with the young people in your lives. All right, so that's my spiel, but let's get started. All right, and as we get started, I'm going to walk you through a check-in, and I'm going to ask you to be a bit reflective about yourself. And this will be a slight meditation type of thing. So I'm going to ask you to find a place where you can feel comfortable. And if you're not really in the mood for this right now, that's totally okay. You can just listen and reflect on the questions that I'm going to be asking. All right. So wherever you are right now, I'd like for you to take a moment and find a position that is comfortable for you. This might be standing, right? I'm standing right now. Perhaps you're sitting. And if it's available, you can even lie down if you like. Whatever feels good and comfortable for you. And as you find comfort, I encourage you to unwind yourself, like physically. If your arms are crossed, let your arms go. Let both feet fall on the floor if that's available to you. And if you're sitting, and if you have a backrest, allow yourself to fall gently on that backrest. And let it support you. And let the floor support you. Gently place your arms on your lap or by your side in any way that feels safe and comfortable for you. And as you're finding some stillness, maybe you're starting to feel some tension in your body. And allow yourself to just move your body in a way that feels good to you. For me, my lower back is saying, hello, I need a little bit of a stretch. So let that happen. And if you'd like, you can lower your gaze or close your eyes, whatever feels comfortable and safe to you. And when you're ready, I invite you to find some more stillness. And as you do, just take note of your breathing. Release your breath and find a natural pattern of breathing for yourself. Let your belly go and allow yourself to find even more comfort and stillness. All right, now I'm going to ask you to start to think about you, yourself, your most authentic self. What does it feel like when you're able to be your most authentic self? What does it feel like when you're with safe and trusted people? When you feel free? What does it feel like when you're able to love in your authentic way? What words come to mind when I ask, what does it feel like when you're your most authentic self? And as words come to mind, I invite you to just jot them down on a piece of paper or maybe a sticky note, maybe your phone. And I'm going to ask you to share in the Menti or in the chat box some of those words that are coming up for you. What are some words that come to mind when you are your most authentic self? And you can scan that QR code. So we have invigorating, relaxing, joyous, peace. Okay, and then the Mentimeter, I think we're going to start some words coming in. Freedom, relaxed, yeah. Safe and loved, happy, relaxed, sharing, joyful, smiling, open, carefree, calm, vulnerability, balanced, yes. Content, inspired. I love all these words coming up. This is why I love Menti, right? Because it just all pops in. And if you're in the chat box, that's fantastic too. I love that. Peace, peaceful, observant, motivated, silly. I love that. I'm also silly. I'm totally with you there. Relaxed is in the middle. Quiet. Isn't that so interesting, right? We're allowed to be quiet when we're just us, right? Or maybe as loud as we want to be. Fun and safe. Funny. Thank you so much for sharing all these words with us, because they're all wonderful words. And you might be wondering, you know, what on earth does this have to do with burnout or work, right? And the reality is that these words are a part of you and the part of the person who goes to work, right? Who shows up every single day. And I recognize that work may not be the place where we're going to be our most authentic self all the time, but it definitely should not be the place where we're losing ourselves. And that can be tough, right? Because we're all juggling so many things. And sometimes the system forgets about us. Sometimes our colleagues forget about us. But the reality is that sometimes we forget about us, right? And if you've joined us before, the image that you see right now may look familiar to you. And at the top, we've modified what Ross Greene says about kids to people do well if they can, right? And just because someone carries it well doesn't mean it isn't heavy. And part of building awareness is naming things and identifying specifically what they are, as opposed to using general terms. So let's get a little bit more specific. I'm going to ask you to take a moment and think about yourself right now, maybe today, maybe this week. What are some things that you're already juggling this year? And let me know in the Menti, or you can let me know in the chat box. What are some things that are already up in the air that you are juggling? New house, congratulations. Work-life balance, yeah. Awesome. Deadlines, family health issues. And I just want to note that someone in the chat box said, you know what, I don't have the capacity for this right now. Thank you so much for doing that. And thank you for taking care of your needs. That's exactly what I mean about taking what you need, right? That is perfect example of self-care. So we have elderly parents, work, family service, family issues, covering shortages at work, health and work, yeah, caring for elderly parents again, work-life balance, family, work, health. Okay, thank you. Thank you for getting specific about these things, right? So that we're not using general terms, but we're really starting to pinpoint, because that's part of the practice of building awareness. And a lot of the times when we feel like we're juggling too much, or we're not really sure, you know, what it is that we're juggling, but we feel exhausted, those types of feelings can really lead to burnout. And job burnout isn't just any type of stress, right? So I love the way that the Mayo Clinic defines it here. Burnout leads to a sense of reduced accomplishment and a loss of personal identity. And I just want us to hold that lightly for a minute. because we know that educator burnout is some of the highest in any profession, right? And I believe it hits us so hard because our goals as educators are to be in the service of youth in front of us. We are a helping profession. And oftentimes our life as an educator is intertwined with our values and identities in ways that may not show up in other fields. And so when we lose those things, right, it hits us hard. So being aware of it is critical to supporting it. So now we know, let's talk about what we can do, okay? And for me, I kind of want to talk about that loss of personal identity because I've felt it in the profession before. And that loss of personal identity happens when my external and my internal expectations are sometimes at odds with each other, right? If you look at this image, I put myself as that orange line and I'm in the middle. And when I feel burnt out, it's as if that line isn't even there, right? Like it's like expectations just coming down on each other and Yasemin is gone. And expectations we're balancing, even though we're today we're talking about work, but it's not just about work, right? If the past 2 years have taught us anything, is that this whole notion of leave your home at home or leave your work at work is just not a real thing. There's no such thing as that. And so all of these elements, our physical well-being, our social well-being, our purpose, community, financial well-being are all impacted, right? And that all impacts our sense of burnout and what expectations show up for us and how we're balancing those expectations. So I just wanted to name that, right? Because this is life. We bring life to work. And so keeping all of that in mind, let's spend some time doing a deep dive into the expectations we're balancing on an individual level currently, okay? So you shared how much you're juggling, and how this juggling act is managed depends on two things. So we're going to talk about work now. The expectations your organization has on you, and the internal expectations you put on yourself, as well as your needs. So what does this mean? I'm going to give you an example. So let's say we have to be at a meeting over lunch, right? This happens all the time. We have to be at a meeting at lunch. So that expectation is external. This is further amplified by the internal expectations we have, right? For example, what role do I want to play at this meeting? Is this conflicting with any of my needs, right? Do I need to eat? Probably yes. Do I need a minute to myself, right? All of these different expectations that we have internally. And managing what is expected of us and what we expect from ourselves is so important. And it's a delicate balance. I know that. Like, I know I'm saying these things and you're like, yeah, if I could do it, I would do it. So I recognize that it's a lot easier said than done. But we're going to start really teasing out what those expectations are so that maybe we can bring a little bit more attention and awareness to it. So I'm going to ask you to pull up either a Word doc or a piece of paper. You can also use the Word doc in the chat box. And what I'm going to ask you to do is just draw a column. You can even do it on a sticky note if you'd like to. I'm going to ask you to draw a table with 2 columns. And on one side, you're going to write external expectations, and on the other side, you're going to write internal expectations. You're all educators. I think you know where I'm going with this. So I'm going to put a timer for 1 minute. And for 1 minute, I would like for you to write uninterrupted all of the internal expectations you're juggling right now, or the internal expectations you have. And so I'm going to start the timer now, and I'm going to be quiet. And you can start now. All right. We're going to move on to the other side of our table. And again, I'm going to give you 1 minute. And I'm going to ask you to write some of the external expectations that you have. So I'm going to, again, give you 1 minute and be quiet, and you can start now. All righty, thank you so much for doing that. So now I'm going to ask you to take a look at your lists. And if more ideas are coming up, keep writing as I'm talking. Don't worry about me. What I'm going to ask you to do is take a look and start to circle some things that are a little bit negotiable, right? Maybe these are things that don't need to be happen. Oh, sorry. Maybe these are things that don't need to happen like right away, or that you need to do to feel fulfilled or be fulfilled in your job, or need to do to get your job done in a safe and healthy way, right? Perhaps these are some things that you can let go of to feel a little bit more of those words that you named at the top of the session together, right? The peace, the relaxed, the quiet. Okay. So once you start circling things that are negotiable, I'm going to ask you to then put a square around things that empty your cup, that really do not give you all the good feels, that maybe are energy depleting. And sometimes, quite honestly, there are things that I love doing, but kind of deplete my energy. So this is not about judgment at all, right? We're not putting any judgment on what's coming up. We're just going to start either circling or squaring. And there may be overlaps, so don't worry about that. And continuing to take a look at your list, I'm going to ask you to put a triangle either around or next to items that fill your cup, that really do kind of give you the smiles, make you feel the words that you maybe put into the word cloud or into the chat earlier. I'm just going to give you about 30 more seconds to do that. And as you're going through this, I'd like for you to take note and perhaps share with us in the Menti, what are you noticing? Is there anything that you're noticing about your list of internal, external expectations, things that are negotiable, things that empty your cup, things that fill your cup? Most of my external expectations empty my cup, okay? I have a lot of internal expectations. I'm with you, yes. Need to communicate what I hope to have happen. Kathy, say it again. Say that again, because yes, communication is key. And you already beat me to it, because I'm going to ask you to communicate these things to the folks around you. Most empty cups come from external. Yeah. Cups need to be replenished. Competing demands and expectations. All of my non-negotiables empty my cup. Okay, that's real. Completing expectations fills my cup. Yeah. The ones that fill and empty my cup, school pickup and meeting people needs, work, fill and, yeah, so the filling and the empty, that's what I was talking about before, right? And this juxtaposition is something that I am noticing more and more, right? And this week I was getting ready for this session. And of course, now I'm like uber aware of all of my expectations. And I'm like, oh, I'm exhausted from just balancing it and putting words to it. These things are so momentary, not long-term. That's so true. And that's such a powerful kind of reframe sometimes when we feel overwhelmed, right? To be able to right size it, to be able to say, okay, is this going to matter in 5 minutes? Is it going to matter in 5 years? Is it going to matter in 50 years, right? Needing time to pause and reflect. Yes. Not a lot of negotiable, but yeah. Yes. Okay. So you're gonna be like, are you kidding me right now? I'm not gonna give you a real solution to a lot of these things, but this is part of moving out of that burnout. This is part of moving out of that loss of identity, or not knowing what's happening, because you're getting specific and you're bringing self-awareness around what is actually happening, right? And so once we start to name it, we can then start to tame it, I'm sure you've heard that many times before. And I'm going to challenge you. You've already put it in the chat box for me. I'm going to challenge you to set up some time this week and to let some people know what you need from them, like what's coming up for you. And maybe it's not, everyone, but maybe you have a couple of trusted folks, maybe at work, maybe in your home life, where you can communicate what's coming up for you right now and maybe problem solving together. Because when we share and are clear about what we need, then we're setting folks up for success in engaging with us, right? And although it may feel uncomfortable, I encourage you to have these conversations about expectations with your colleagues and with the people that you lead, right? And identify and then follow through on the ways to support. Because when we take time to build the self-awareness, we honor our struggle, which reminds me of this quote from Brené Brown, that every time we honor our struggle and the struggles of others by responding with empathy, the healing that results affects all of us, right? So maybe you're going to complete this activity with a grade level team or even your family, right? And you will help build a sense of empathy. Everyone has their own invisible list of external and internal expectations that they're juggling every single day, right? And struggles are hard. They're hard for me, they're hard for you, perhaps in different ways, but that doesn't make it any softer, right? That hardness doesn't go away. And Brené Brown talks about honoring that struggle. And what that really means is to label the hardness for what it is, which is exactly what you've just done. You all named a lot of hard stuff right now. And to be able to do that without judgment, without feeling like you're not doing enough or being enough, right? Without all of those feelings of negativity. Instead, let's commit to an evidence-based strategy, which is empathetic acceptance and honoring one another. And the reality is that we've talked about it a little bit at the top, that burnout and the sense of being overwhelmed is not an individual event, right? It is impacted and also impacts the collective. So let's expand on that notion that people do well if they can, to teams do well if they can. And teams have to juggle expectations, both internal and external, and teams are built of people, right? And teams are made of individuals who also have to juggle expectations. And in order to become more human with each other, right, we talked about the fact that we are committing to transformative relationships, that we are seeing each other as humans. And in order to foster those transformative relationships, we're going to ground in what we call the 5 elements of effective teams. And I like to think about these elements as a way to increase and improve team culture. And the reality is that we need to commit to transformative spaces and bring our authentic selves to work in order for this to really work, right? And I'm not saying 100% of the time, right? Bringing your authentic self to work 100% of the time is just exhausting. So that's unrealistic, but perhaps some of the time. And it's clear, right? I know that we are in a room full of educators here, so we know that we work on teams. And we know that not all teams are created equal. And how we work together matters, right? And so the research shows that healthy teams can have significant impacts on us and on our work. And what makes a healthy and effective team? So research from Google that we will explore in detail over the next few sessions until April, identified 5 elements of effective teams. And these are impact, or the feeling that your work has purpose. Meaning focuses on exactly that, right? Personal and collective meaning found in the work. Structure and clarity, my favorite. This is the one that I strive for till the end of time. And so this is knowing, your work roles, processes, and communications, right? Are they clear? Do we all know what we're doing? Dependability, trusting each other to do the work well and on time. And ultimately, all of this is in the search for what we call psychological safety. So psychological safety is the collective belief or acknowledgement that any team member of an organization can voice their perspective without fear of punishment, exclusion, or humiliation, right? That someone's not going to talk behind your back because you voiced your opinion, or that you put yourself out there, or that you made a mistake, right? And psychological safety is all about a journey. It is not the destination. You're never going to achieve it, but you are going to have practices that foster an environment of psychological safety. And so everything that we're going to be talking about starting today and into April is going to be in service of that. And in the chat and in follow-up email, you're going to receive this resource, which is a 5-element survey. So you can do this survey as a team or as an entire school, a district, to really identify what is working well and what are some areas that maybe have opportunity to be better. We all have areas to improve. So if it's, there is no running away from that, right? And it's wonderful because then you get to really problem solve together. And during the next few sessions, we're going to dive into these 5 elements, and we're going to identify strategies and resources to support you to create a more positive work culture together. So if this sounds interesting to you and you want to invite some of your team members to join you, please do so, and the recordings will also be available to you. So to start us off, to get us comfortable using this tool, I'm going to ask you to think about yourself at work. Maybe you're at work right now, so you don't have to think about it too much. But I want you to think about all the things you do in a day, a week, maybe a whole school year, right? And considering these 5 elements, meaning, impact, structure and clarity, dependability, and psychological safety, what individual strengths do you bring to these elements, right? What are you good at? So I'm going to pause for about 45 seconds, and I'm going to allow the responses to come in. You can put it in the chat box, use that Menti. I love those Menti answers coming in. And this is your moment to brag about yourself. Okay, you are fantastic. You are very good at very many things. So this is the time to say, yeah, I'm actually really good at structure and clarity, and this is how I do it. All right, so we have strive to make staff expectations to be clear. I'm good at taking data and creating system schedules. Whoever wrote that, it's anonymous. I can't find it, but you are my soul person. Longevity, knowledge, yes. Passion. Organization to create clarity and structure for team members, super detail oriented. Help others organize their days and responsibilities. My goodness. Responsiveness, establishing boundaries with peers. I wish I could see all your faces. I want to know who's behind all of this. Empathy, open to looking at different ways of doing things. That's amazing. Very dependable. Listen actively. I take initiative to provide information that others can use. Thank you for doing that. We have being reliable and open to dialogue with others. Empathetic and flexibility, courageous, passionate, caring, striving, love to research. Creating a safe space. I'm our team leader, so I thrive in dependability. Awesome. Empathetic and flexibility. Create spaces for people to have a voice. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. Please write this down for yourselves. Please, I'm like getting all the feels just looking at this, because sometimes when we're juggling, sometimes when all these expectations are happening, we forget, right? We forget like, oh my gosh, I'm actually really good at being adaptable, at building relationships, at being super empathetic, right? So jot these down for yourselves. I'm unfortunately going to move forward to the next activity, but I love all of this coming in. It's so cool to see. Team player and flexibility. Okay, I'm going to stop reading. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you to think of a team of folks that you work with. Maybe this is a team that you've been working with for a long time. Maybe they're new, right? And I just want you to like name, I want to name that they don't have to be folks that you necessarily get along with all the time, right? Like conflict happens on teams, and that's totally normal. But I do want you to start thinking about a team that you work with pretty often. And I'd like for you to think about the work that you do and the things that you accomplish every single day, every single week, maybe over a year, maybe over many years. And what strengths do your team members bring to these elements? So we have stuff coming in already: creativity, different ways of solving problems. They are dependable, they get their jobs done, and they are always willing to help. Flexibility and adaptability, resourcefulness, new energy, I love that. Knowledge and customer service, attention to detail, knowledge range, dependable, jump in when needed. Yeah. Allow me to be human and are kind. That's so cool. Listen, perspective taking, work from strengths lens, wisdom, a wider field of view. Yeah. Creative, out of the box thinking, fearless, kind, and flexible, have insights, various perspectives, willingness to pivot at a moment's notice. Oh, amazing. This is so cool. Data evaluation and reporting, things I'm not so good at. How cool is that you get to work with people who kind of know things in a different way than you do? That is my favorite part of being on a team, right? Like, I'm good at some things and I'm really not good at other things. And I do have team members who show up for me and are creative and energetic and caring and have an enormous amount of intelligence. So this is so amazing. And thank you for sharing. Remembering that we're all juggling and that when times get tough, it can be hard to remember, right? That we have strength. And it can be so powerful to share affirmations around what we're getting right as a collective, right? Because that sense of personal identity tends to happen as a collective, especially in the education field, as we're going through burnout. So I'm going to ask you to please write these things down right now. Anything that came to mind about your team, strengths that you wrote down in either the chat box or in the Menti, write it down on a piece of paper right now. And I'm going to ask you to take it a step further. And I'm going to ask you to write an affirmation for your team. And I don't want to pretend that stress and conflict aren't going to happen, right? This is not about being positive all the time. But the reality is that we've named so many powerful things right now, and to lose it would be such a shame. And when we extend empathy, right, and we acknowledge the good, it's not only kind to ourselves, it's also kind to others, but it's really kind to ourselves, right? And so I'm going to ask for affirmations based on the strengths that you wrote for your teams. And please put it in the chat box, or you can put it into the Menti as well. My teammates share the responsibility, and by doing so, lighten the load for all of us. We can get through the hard, stressful times. We are kind and mindful of others. We're helpful. Yeah, you preserve and face some really hard challenges head on and look from various points of view to brainstorm solutions that work for most. Yes. I appreciate your strength to press into the barriers and the tears you have seen. Thank you for pushing me to success. Thank you for being a different type of boss. Together, we can thrive. We are a strong and resilient team. My team is worthy of greatness. I don't know that I've cried on a webinar before, but I'm about to. Together, we can accomplish our goals. We encourage each other to speak up when needed and provide support for those learning to do so. We learn to accept and acknowledge our differences and work through, not around, our conflict. We are a team that draws on each other's strengths to make a bigger impact. I'll cover you, you cover me. You all are Amazing. You work so hard to better the lives of others, and you do so with grace, kindness, and empathy. Thank you. My team is always ready to help and support where needed. Together, there is nothing we can't handle. We work together with heart and mind to improve our community. Thanks for supporting me. All right. I'm gonna read one more. We know how to put our students' needs in front of our minds when making decisions. And thank you for doing that. I cannot thank you all enough for everything that you do. This is magnificent. I am so, so grateful to be sharing space with you and for being privy to everything that you've just shared. And I really encourage you to share these affirmations with your teams. You know, maybe you want to write it on a Post-it note, maybe you just want to put it in your drawer for a rainy day. And I encourage you not to wait for a rainy day, right? Share it on a bright day. Share it when everything is going right and just name what is happening and the goodness that exists. And helping and holding space for others to also share is really powerful, right? So on the next slide, I'm going to challenge you to share your affirmations with your team when the juggle gets hard, right? And have those conversations with your teams about what they're juggling. And I'm also going to encourage you to have those conversations about what's going right. What are you all good at? And spending time to brag about yourselves, right? To be like, yeah, I'm good at that, right? And then also follow up, right? If you're talking about something or if you come up with a solution, follow up and really encourage each other. And I encourage you to nurturing those spaces, right? Because what we're trying to get at are those transformative spaces, right? With the relationships and to bring more of ourselves to work. And we're coming to the end of our time, which is so sad for me right now. I would like to ask you to engage in the Menti one more time and identify what is one strength that you want to leverage in the new year for perhaps yourself or your teams or for both. What's one thing that you want to say, okay, let's go. I want to do this. So we have enthusiasm. For me, it's humor. I want more humor. I want more kind of silliness and lightness in my year. Let's see what else comes up. Collaboration and connection, authenticity, new perspectives and opportunities to build a stronger team, self-love, self-care, love myself and spread the kindness, cohesiveness, trust and belief in one another, intentionality, yeah, creativity and connection, respect, trust and connection, self-care, cherish the job, positive attitude, motivation, yeah, being more present, self-care and celebrating others, taking care of themselves. That's so important. It can feel kind of lonely sometimes when you're like, I'm here taking care of myself, but no one's kind of acknowledging it. So when someone says, good job, or like, I see you, that's so powerful. Honest communication, more gratitude, compassion, simplification of paperwork and my life. Yes. yes. Self-care and positivity, humor, connection, honest communication, consistency, appreciating the strengths of my team. Yes. Be where your feet are. Ooh, I love that. I'm going to borrow that. So if you're seeing some things in the chat box or in the Menti that you like, this is the time to borrow. Remember I said we're each other's best resources. So this is the time to take. I really appreciate everything that you're sharing with us. And as we close out, I am going to ask you for a favor, and that's to give me some feedback. I read through everything that comes in the feedback survey. It is anonymous, and it really helps create the content, also me as a facilitator, and making sure that we are creating sessions that meet your needs, right? So please take a moment to click that link in the chat box or scan the QR code and give me some feedback. It's really, really important to me. And I just wanted to talk about Healthier Generation a little bit and what we do with districts and schools. And we support schools and districts, leadership teams, and wellness committees with their continuous improvement, just like we have a continuous improvement for equitable whole child health and staff well-being. So whether you're building buy-in, deciding which healthy changes to prioritize, or need help finding resources and trainings just like this one, you can schedule a time to talk to a Healthier Generation team member. And right now or next week, I encourage you to join your school or your district in the Healthier Generation Action Center. And there you'll find something called the Thriving Schools Integrated Assessment, which is a self-assessment that really identifies where you are right now within the context of whole child health. And next to each evidence-based question are related resources. And remember, this is all at no cost to you. And you can use these resources to implement healthier policies and practices with your students, families, and also staff. And I just want to remind you that you're going to get a follow-up email and you'll find the following mapping your strengths. So I kind of modified the mapping your strengths activity. And this is available in English and also in Spanish for you. And again, no cost. And we are looking so forward to seeing you during our next session, which is on February 16th. I'm going to be joined by my colleague, Christina Rodriguez. So I'm just looking forward to being with her. And in the chat and in the follow-up email is a flyer you can share with your colleagues. Again, we're going to talk about positive team culture. So this is a team thing, so invite folks. And I just want to thank you so much for the space and the time you've shared with us today. We know you're carrying so much, and it's really not lost on us that showing up to today's session may not have been easy for you. You matter so much, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. And we hope to see you soon, and take care.
Thank you so much, Yasmin, for a wonderful presentation. I'd just like to point you all towards our K-12 mental health listserv. This is a resource that the California Department of Education maintains to disseminate resources, new policy information regarding mental health space in the education sector. So if you're interested in joining and have not done that yet, the information to join is here on your screen. Please do also remember to fill out that feedback survey that Yasmin had indicated. That's really important, that we see how we're delivering support for you and where we can learn and grow. Also, I would like to draw your attention to America's Healthiest Schools Award. This is an annual national recognition program that celebrates schools for implementing best practices to support the physical, mental, and social emotional needs of students, staff, and families. Schools may apply for this recognition in up to 9 topic areas, including implementing local school wellness policy, strengthening social emotional health and learning, and cultivating staff well-being, to name a few of the relevant examples. If you're interested in more information or are interested in applying, you can visit the link in the chat for more information. I wanted to take a moment to answer any questions that you might have. I see that the Q&A has had a couple of questions already answered. The recording will be shared on our website, and you can access it already on the Facebook webpage. Are there any other questions at this point? You can put them in the chat or either in the Q&A section. not sure why I can't copy the links. That's, yeah, I've had that issue before. I would, if you want to copy the link, I would suggest opening the link in a browser by clicking on it, and it'll open it in a browser window, and then you can copy it from there. For some reason, Zoom sometimes won't allow you to copy links. I don't know why that is. I'm sorry. Could we email the links? Yeah, we've shared a lot of links in this presentation. The copy of the 5 elements, we can share out a copy of the links for the 5 elements that, what other specific links were you wanting shared in a follow-up email? All links will be in the follow-up email. Thank you, Sean. Okay. I got a question. Are you aware that the CTA provides Calm at no fee to all teachers? I was not aware of that, but that's an excellent resource. I do know that they are typically a paid subscription-based service, so having that available at no cost is an excellent resource. Thank you for sharing that, Lori. All right. And it looks like Sean just shared the link for that resource as well for you all. So thank you, Sean. Calm is also free to Kaiser members. Good to know. All right. I'm not seeing any other questions come in. So yeah, I'd just like to, again, thank you all so much for taking your time today. Thank you, Yasmin, for your wonderful presentation and for just being so genuine and emotionally available. I think we all appreciated that. And again, please do take the time to fill out the survey, and we look forward to seeing you next month. Have a great day, everyone.